afternoon, welcome, and we're going to be starting this panel, of which topic is how France managed to be one of the top leading export countries. When I first looked at the topic, in fact, I thought maybe there's a simple answer. It's because we have the best artists. Maybe that's a bit too chauvinistic to say that. Of course, there's great artists in every country. Many of them want to tour, share their music internationally. The international playing field is quite wide, huge. It's by nature very competitive, requires risk takers, promoters, record label, support as well from institutions. It requires political and cultural will as well. In the 90s, France was one of the first countries to have this political will with export and in fact put in place the French Export Bureau, which sort of became a model for some other countries. We'll see that a little bit later. And today the international market in France is a key component of our industry, generating over 600 million euros in revenues. So today we have a great panel with professionals. We'll briefly introduce them and they will share with you their view. On my left, I'll start from the far left, Olivier Wurt, who's the managing director of Orgullo Production, promoter in France. To my left, on my side, Philippe Cohen-Solal, founder of Gotham Project and man of all trade, record label Yabasta, and publisher and many other adventures. To my right, Olivier Delpoux, from institution in France called the Institut Français. He will tell us more about it later. And to my far right, Fabrice Rebois, the director of the Export Bureau. Before we kick off, I wanted to ask the floor, a little bit where you were from, just to situate the debate. May I ask if some of you are from record labels? You can just raise your hand. No record labels, that's one done. Promoters, live industry? 1, 2, 3, okay. Publishers? I think I've kind of covered record labels, I've already said that. Institutions? Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, well, we'll start off with Fabrice. Just for that, it'd be interesting that you give us maybe a short overview of what's the export market in France and a few key figures, just to give us an idea.
All right. Can you hear me? Hello? Thank you. Hello, so I'm Fabrice Rebois, the manager of the Bureau Export de la Musique, the French Music Export Office. In the beginning of the 2010 years, the digitalization of the distribution of music made the export grow, contrary to our domestic market. In 2010, we reached for the first time 200 million of financial movements coming into France, and it was a 10% increase that year. In 2014, there's a little bit more than 250 million that comes physically, monetarily, in France, which means it's about 25% of increase in 5 years compared to the evolution of the general music market. It's very big, and it's largely due to digitalization. As Aline was saying, the amount of money generated by music at the international is measured for the first time above 600 million, 602 million to be precise, last year. The difference of those two figures, 251 and 602, is the same idea that the cinema used for box offices, because you know that the cinema always counts the price of the ticket they sell. Of course, it's a lot more money if you calculate the price of the concert sales, of the record sales, and you gather all this. But there is, of course, commissions and intermediary money that you leave abroad. So we like to have the same comparison of that with the cinema, because it makes our industry bigger and important for everybody, including the institutional officials, to be careful about our industry. So to summarize this, there's a 25% augmentation in 5 years, big rise, and it's 602 million market turnover for the international of the French music. So excluding musical instruments, excluding musical instruments, which would be another 200 million.
So fifth market in the world in terms of size, and obviously a market done by great artists, development of new artists as well, which is quite interesting to see that it's linked to this growth. And obviously that has been possible because we were supported by and structured and bureau export bureau, we say in English?
Yeah, export French office.
Okay. Was one of those mediums and tools, and in that context, what are the main missions of the export bureau?
All right, I will do it with this very short presentation. I'll go very quick, and if there is some further question, I will answer them with pleasure. So the French Bureau Export de la Musique was founded 20 years ago. It was a French invention. Then now there's several organisms of this style in the world and in Europe. So the idea is when you need export, you know that the figures we did it. Some of the artists we have, as you know, like Stromae, like Zaz, like in jazz, Ibrahim Malouf, for electro, David Guetta, and even some Americans, as you see, like Gregory Porter, because we can help people that are not French, and a very promising one on the left, I don't know if you know her, it's Christine and the Queen. And its first album, and it's still starting at the international. So all these artists there have international potential. It was founded in '93, as I told you. Our mission is to help the professional environment of the artist to develop their career in the international. And now more and more we like to say the objective is to maximize the turnover of the French industry abroad and give it and take back this money to France. The budget of the Bureau Export is roughly a little bit more than 3 million euros, including what we do with our partner here, Institut Français, which give us more than 100,000 euros, yes. We have 250 members, which are all from the industry, and every year the members has to be renewed, and that's the way we can regulate all the people that want to export, because we are not rich and big enough to work properly with all the people that would like us to work. So we have to find a solution to be sure that the people that need our help and are ready for this help would be helped. In another way, if we would help and send to foreign partners, French exporters that would not be ready, that wouldn't work at all, because the people that we would present them to, they would not next year to hear anything from us if we send them people that are not prepared and not professional enough. So it's always a quality control of the people being members for the year, and then if they pass this test, they can be helped. So the kind of service we give is, we have 6 offices, Paris, of course, and then 5 ones, one in Tokyo, in Berlin, which is the bigger one, in London, in New York, and in Sao Paulo. Altogether, it's about 35 staff members. in these countries. And we consider that we are active on a little bit more than 15 markets, because we also are active on countries where we don't have an office. Our 4 main mission is market research. This will help the exporter to know what are the specifications of the country and learn not by himself, but by our experience and our team, which are experts, to go faster, to have a more precise action, and then it will save time and save a lot of money, of course. The second thing is consulting and professional networking. That's where we can advise them, depending on their project, who they should turn to in Germany, in different countries, for being sure that they have the more appropriate partner. And doing so, it makes them earn a lot of time, save a lot of time, and a lot of money. The third thing is financial support. We have different commission when we distribute money. I will come back to that. And we do a little bit of promotion too. We have a newsletter, market reports, that I will go quick. This is some figures of what we do, individual meetings, of course, international professional contacts, which is in our database, nearly 6,000 across 34 territories, all very precise professionals. And even in synchronization, 350 music supervisors. The funding committees, these are 3 main funding committees we have, and we distribute around 1.2 million euros per year, which is not that big because there's a lot of need. There's promotion travel expenses for modern and also for classical music. We have support for international tour. This concerns only the modern music, and support for international development campaigns, and it's only for modern music. The 5 offices can fund directly the project because they know they are on the field and they know exactly what is needed at what time. So it's important that they have some budget. It's not big, but it's very useful when you have a tour and you miss something at the last moment. It's important that they have this important tool. And we have a special thing, which is a fund. We have 3 funds for contemporary music, because we promote and export and help the people export all kind of music. I should have said that earlier. Whenever it's classical, contemporary, jazz, pop, rock, electro, name it, we help them all. Contemporary music is not very easy to export, as you can imagine, and it's not even easy to promote in our own country. So we have specialized funds which make bilateral action between US and France, England and France, and Germany and France. That is 509 artists were helped in 2014, which is quite a lot. I told you 1.2 million financial support and 1.6 million of non-financial support. I mean all the services that I described earlier that we help. And this is about what is our agenda 2015 with all the major, with some of the major festival or market where we have to be.
How many people did you say you have on staff? 35?
35.
35. Yeah. I find it pretty impressive when you see the figures, what you can generate when things are structured with just 35 people, but well positioned, and so that's great. In France, so we have Export Bureau, and it's the one part of the armed wing of our cultural policy. The other part of that armed wing is the Institut Français, of which the scope is much broader. It's not just music. Olivier, if you want to explain us a little bit how not compare, but how you work together, and how it can build up the strength of that great network, and how the professional can utilize that network.
Sure. I will first, hi to everyone. I will say a few words just to introduce Institut Français, just to explain what it is about. So we are a public agency placed under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and this institute is in charge of implementing France's cultural action abroad in all areas. So as you said, it's not just about music, it's all cultural areas. It comes to performing arts, visual arts, cinema, French language, and of course music. So we are connected with a very large network in the world. All of our colleagues from Institut Français in various countries. There are about 100 Institut Français in the world, and a network of cultural and audiovisual attachés. There's Jean-Marc, who is here, is our cultural attaché here in Spain. And we work very closely with this very large network, although in Paris, for music, we are not as many as Bureau Export. But we can rely on this very large network as well. For music, we really try to promote diversity. We try to put forward the contemporary scene, as we do in all art forms. We give a priority to the emerging artists. We try to give them chances for their first development internationally. So sometimes we are a little bit ahead of the music industry, and this is where also we complement each other. We are here also to open the new doors on new territories, trying to find new opportunities, new actors, new professionals through our network. So it's really like the beginning of the international development in some countries, in some territories. We try to do that in a very close way with all the French professionals and other organizations, Bureau Export, CNV, SACEM, and others. And we really think of support as a part of a larger plan for the artists to develop in a longer term. What we provide is grants. We have money for supporting, for example, a tour in Latin America, in Europe, or in Asia. We provide sponsorship as well for festivals that are interested in programming French artists, for example, in North America or also in Europe. But we also provide expertise, support. We do as well networking, and as soon as it is possible, we work together with the Bureau Export and other French platforms in order to make it more relevant for the French professionals. Our supports are also for the offices of the Bureau Export in the 5 countries that Fabrice mentioned, and we also support initiatives that are organized by our cultural network. I just give an example for the networking part. We are a partner of MAMA, which is a convention and a showcase festival in Paris. I think it was the 5th year this year. And so we have partnered with this platform to invite professionals from all over the world, and we managed, together with Bureau Export, to invite around 150 professionals from around 40 countries.
Politically, in France, culture is very close to politics. It's a big issue, and issue in a positive way, of course. So to understand the reason why all this structuration of the tools was put in place, it was because at the beginning there was a real political will. Would that be a view that you share, you being at...
Well, it's true. Our entry is cultural. It's also diplomacy. It's also about what the perception of France is around the world. So I said that's the reason why I say that it's really much in promoting the contemporary art scene. So that's part of politics and diplomacy. So, but we also embrace the economic challenges altogether. So we try to have the whole picture in terms of promoting the French music scene.
To mirror a bit this full scope, I'll turn to my left to Philippe Cohen-Solal. In your perspective and in the work and what you have created and your experience through your different projects and the new one, the upcoming one, how does that work? How did it work for you internationally in your experience?
I have to say hello first. I have to say that it starts in when you're in studio, when you are creating music. You are creating music for a larger market than your domestic market. And I never thought when I was doing music, even before Guitar Project, and when I started my label, I was always thinking about some people or friends who are going to listen it in LA, Tokyo, or Brazil. So I think it starts when you're in studio. But after, when you did the music, you have to show it to expose your music, and I started to expose it of course, in Paris in record shop, because at this time it was vinyls only, but also I was going to London. The French music was not really well appreciated in the mid-90s, but thanks to the French touch, the people, because I was going to the record shop in London, and when I was saying that I was French, I was more, snubbed, I would say. And after a few years after, thanks to Daft Punk, Air, and other Cassius and other people, we have been much more welcomed in different record shop in London. But also I was going every year to the Winter Music Conference in Miami to expose our music. And when we started Gotan Project in '99, I have to say that even if the band is based in Paris, the three creators of the band, which is one Argentinian, one Swiss, and me, I'm French, so we were already like a kind of international band, even if we were based in Paris. And the music we were doing was already like a universal music, which is tango. It's universal, you can hear tango anywhere in the world. And electronic music, which is absolutely kind of like completely universal too. So the mix of these two music maybe succeed to have like an impact all over the world, and we were very surprised that it didn't start by France, but it started by the first we react to our music were in Italy, Austria, LA, Tokyo, Portugal, and London. And thanks to somebody who has a worldwide show, Giles Peterson, on the BBC, he really play our music so much that many DJs all over the world heard our tracks. But after that, you have to, when you have a kind of buzz and word of mouth, we had a strong word of mouth. It was like a problem to distribute your music. And at this time, my label, Yabasa Records, was distributed by an independent French label, independent French company, distribution company called Discograph. So they were like releasing our vinyls, and I was really looking for a record company. I was okay to be distributed all over the world by one major company, because I knew it was very difficult to do all this job to distribute all over the world when you're a small label. So I proposed our tracks, our album to many record companies in Paris, and it was being refused by all of them. So just 3 months before the release, the release of the album was planned to September 2001. Sorry. I had 3 months before, I had a call from a guy from Universal in France, from Barclay, who was to tell me that he was interested to release the Gotan Project album. And so I was very pleased, but I asked him, okay, how many copies do you want to put in shops all over the world, because he wanted to a worldwide deal. And he told me, like, I don't know, something like 5,000 or 10,000 copies. So I said, are you sure about the world? Because we have, just with Discograph for independent distribution, we have already 50,000 pre-orders copy. So why Universal cannot do better than this small independent distribution? But it couldn't. So that's why at the end we just signed Gotan Project through Universal, only for France, Switzerland, and Belgium. And we had to find partners, support from other record companies. So XL Records distributes our music in UK first, and later to USA, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And we had to find some other labels to help us in Japan and Argentina. It takes a long time, and Discograph made the whole world like in all the rest of the countries. So it was really like à la carte, you know. It was a long process, and I have to say that there is not. I think the only way to promote your music is to do it very organically. So to find the right partners, and I was feeling from the beginning that Gotan Project will have some impact, and I saw that there was some impact directly through DJs and people, and I thought, okay, I will not let the baby in one hand. I will give the baby to different hands, and I want to meet everyone. Almost, I think I met every partners all over the world. You know, through when I was at the MIDEM or when I was DJing in some countries, I was meeting the people who work on our record. So it started like that. It was like a big job.
Thanks. So that was a very organic growth. I thought you brought us a short video. Maybe we could have a look at it. You can comment and that sort of trace a little bit of the history of that path, that organic path.
It's a video we did for the release of the last album, which is a few years ago, Tango 3.0, but it shows maybe the history of Gotan Project for some people who are not familiar with that.
Philippe thought that was a good idea to have a bit of music, not just talking.
Paris, 1999. Gotan Project is born from the meeting of Argentine tango musicians and European electro wizards. 2001. After a substantial worldwide underground buzz, Gotan Project releases the incredibly successful album La Revancha del Tango. The album goes platinum or multi-platinum in over 20 countries and wins both Victoire de la Musique and World Music Awards in 2003. 2006, Philippe Cohen-Solal, Eduardo Makarov, and Christophe Müller, the nucleus of Gotan Project, successfully released their second album, Lunatico. Gotan Project wins a BBC World Music Award for the second time.
Gotan!
2010. La Revancha del Tango has just been rated by The Guardian as one of the best albums of the decade. Gotan Project has sold over 2 million albums. After 400 concerts for over 1 million spectators, Gotan Project is about to release their new album, Tango 3.0.
Una tarde espectacular, un partido impresionante. Toma la pelota Nini Flores de Corrientes, un verdadero duende, un mago del bandoneón. Hábil y musical, siempre inspirado. La va dejando para el ruso Beitelman. Gustavo Beitelman, auténtico gaucho judío de Venado Tuerzo. Un sabio, quizás el músico argentino más importante residente en Europa. Va dejando la pelota para Lynn Cruz. La violinista Daniela Tanguera, dinamita en los dedos y en el alma. Bellísima, va tocando la pelota por el costado para Christophe Müller. Christophe Müller se acerca al área. La va dejando para Philippe Cohen-Solal. Philippe Cohen toca para Eduardo Makarov. Está frente al arquero, va a tirar Diogo.
True to its founding principles, Gotan Project continues its sonic explorations around tango and Argentine folk music, ever expanding the frontiers of the global soundscape. Gotan Project released their new album, Tango 3.0.
Sold 3 million albums, so it's a bit dated now. But
I was
yeah.
wondering, I was looking at the video and I saw the guy dancing, he had a tattoo. I was wondering if it
Carlos
was you.
Gardel.
Yeah, because for 1 second it was you.
No, it's Carlos Gardel. Yeah, so it was not only like a record thing, because we play a lot all over the world. We made a mini concert, and it was like thanks to that we succeed to go to all these countries, because it would be impossible without having like a strong live show.
So border breaker project. That's what it's called.
Yeah, we broke the breaker, and yeah.
And how did you, just to go back a little bit, and in terms of what exists in France as far as support is concerned, did you, in your story, great story, how did you use and utilize the mechanism in place in France to support export? In which way?
It was extremely important, because we had a huge support from the Bureau Export and some support also from the Institut Français, but we have to say that from the very beginning we had, of course, money help, subsides to do some travel promo travels, I would say, promotion travels, and also we for some TV shows, for even a few years ago, we had to go to play for a big American TV show in front of 16 million of people, Dancing with the Stars, and 16 million, and it was it was not in the context of an album release, and we succeed to do it because thanks to the Bureau Export, because they pay partly the travels, you know. And so, but also I have to say that it's not only a money thing, even if it's extremely important, we all know that. It's also like a logistic thing, like a human thing, that we've been helped in many countries where the Bureau Export was mostly, by the people who were there. So I can think, of course, of Brazil, but I can think about Germany, Japan, almost everywhere the Bureau Export is, and Australia, I have to say, because at the beginning it was really impossible to bring the band to Australia. It was really too expensive, and Gotan Project was not that famous in this big country. So I've been there to DJ, and thanks to the Bureau Export and Music, there was one person we really helped to do all the promotion interviews, because unfortunately the record company was completely absent, was absolutely not supporting us. So we succeed to, thanks to that, to come back a few years later and to make a really like a big tour, and we did few tours now since then in Australia and New Zealand, but it was originally thanks to the Bureau Export, because it would be impossible, I think, without it. So we had a lot of support for, also when they created like a web committee, you know, to help us, to help all the bands who are French bands to go more on digital and online to promote their music. It was really a big help for the last album, particularly. Yeah. So yeah, it was a huge help.
What I hear for your story as well, which is like a story that every single band or artist is going through at the moment, is that obviously there's the recording, publishing part, and quite obviously the live and the touring is extremely important as far as international development is concerned.
Yeah, we work with a French producer, like tour promoter, which is called Alias, and Alias worked with many different promoters all over the world, and he succeeded. They were really producers. I mean, they lost money for 1.5 years before getting €1. You know, it was like, I don't know if there is so many tour promoters who are doing that, but they did it for us, and Gotan Project was not a live band. We never did any show before releasing the album, so it was mostly a studio project. We wanted to go on stage, so it was not like a classic thing where you see a band live and you see, wow, they are great. Okay, I believe in this project. They believe in us thanks to the music, and they really expose us all over the world in really big venues, very, very very fast. So it was like a mix of like different record labels à la carte, I would say, a really live support, and the support of the Bureau Export and Institut Français also.
As far as the live industry is concerned, and especially in France, I mean, each country's got its specificity as far as the music industry altogether. But France has got a specific model for the live industry, and promoters work. We have national promoter, local promoter, and Olivier, can you tell us just a little bit more about that structuration that can be a strength, sometimes bring some difficulties as far as international development is concerned?
Hi everybody. Actually the model has been changing a lot for the last 15 years, I guess, because before it was the record label that were going to the artists and telling them what to do in terms of touring and live. And nowadays, I don't think that the artists see anymore the label coming to us and saying, do it that way. No, the record label come to us and ask, what are you going to do? And in France, what's very specific is that what used to be before the booking agents or the live promoter, like Alias Philippe talked about, we have become real tour producers, meaning that we are very early onto acts, sometimes the first people to work with an artist, and taking all the risk, all the investment on us from the beginning to help the development grow from the ground up. At Augury, we are working with a various range of acts like Stromae, Vanessa Paradis, David Guetta, M, Dominica, and Jane, which we are going to see perform tonight. And most of them, we've been working with them from their debut, meaning that for maybe 1, 2, or 3 years, at their debut, we take the loss on us, we invest on them. We invest by creating a show, by financing rehearsals, by building up a technical and musical team around them, and putting them on stage in France and abroad, thanks to the help of everybody. And that's all on us. And when it started to work in France or everywhere, then we share the profit with them. Most of the profit go to the artist, not stay at Augury. And the parts that stay at Augury or at the live producer help financing new acts. And this is a constant way which we are working to develop acts and French acts all over the world. And what I wanted to say regarding the development of French artists abroad is that their development in other territories has become very important to them and to us because of the globalization of the music and the digitalization of the music. We see that, for example, Stromae, who has been very successful first in France and Belgium, then all around Europe, become of interest in the US too, in Africa, in Asia. And without the support of everybody here and many people everywhere, we won't have been able to help him develop all over the country. And the difficulties we encountered here were of various things. It comes from the tax. We have to be aware of all individual tax elements for our artists and for each country we are going to perform in. It's about visas, because we are not only putting an artist and a tour manager on the road. We are putting a whole team because we want to present a show, not only an artist and some backline, and that all. We want the artist to be able to to see his skill and his quality to perform before an audience, being 100 people or 1,000 people, whatever. And yeah.
You feel that, in fact, there's from what you are saying, is that there's a shift on the market. Like from one hand, there's a necessity for the artist to tour more and to be more on the road, I should say. Together, of course, with recording, publishing, etc. But that's more to the forefront. But in the meantime, it's kind of like a bit difficult because you have visa issues, tax issues, so a lot of different difficulties that just make that element difficult to break, albeit the fact that we may have structures in France that may help us, such as French Export Bureau and Institut Français. So, I mean, my question is here for you is, from your perspective, what could be done to help and to go further? Because that's the question we have to ask ourselves today, and we're already doing it at the moment all together in France. Of course, we have French Export Bureau is great, but we need to do more to be able to do. So, what could be done?
Actually, I would say that the main difficulties for us now is not in administrative details, which are not details because it's very important, but on this stuff, you all help us with that, giving your skills and people you have in every country to help on that. I think that's the major difficulty we have now is the lack of leading indicators on what choice to make for an artist, where to go, when and how, because we cannot do all territories, all continents over one tour. It's impossible over 2 years. For Stromae, the demand was everywhere, but we didn't go in Asia, we didn't go in Australia, New Zealand. We only did 3 shows in Latin America because we don't have the funding to do so and the time to do so, basically. And when a territory like the US or like Africa started to grow for an artist, you have to be present there and to come after and after, even so it means that you are not going to go elsewhere. So yeah, my principal issue now is this lack of leading indicators, because before we have the album sales, the physical album sales, to help us, to give us guidance on where to go and when. And now with the digital sales and the streaming and that kind of new consumption of music, we don't have the same expertise on what's the good moment to go at a good place, basically.
Do you also have like a difficulty also can be the way employment is structured in France, as far as just like not to go into too much details, but that's certainly a point that may think.
This is a vast subject. What you have to understand in that, under the French law, we have to give an artist a salary for every show he did, whatever the context, even so it's development and an emerging artist. We have to pay him for a show, we have to pay his team, and every people that we put on the road for one show, for rehearsals, and sometimes even for the days off. So this creates some important costs, additional costs, comparing to what happened in other countries, because the UK, or I don't even know if Spain, has to pay its artists when they are playing a show, but we have to, meaning that for one show, with maybe 3 people on stage and 3 people off the stage, a tour manager, a sound engineer, and sometimes a light designer, you've got 2,000 to 3,000 euros to pay for each show because of only salary. And you have to add the backline, you have to add your transportation costs, taxes, everything, and this makes every tour abroad a big investment for us.
So that makes borders difficult to break, but not unbreakable, because that wanted to share with you with the room that in fact we in France all have those difficulties in mind and many others, and what needs to be done to find the right levers. And in fact, in France we have a music association that gathers basically every single representative from the industry. So that means, Produce, which is the live music trade body of France that I represent here, is present. We have SACEM, we have the Export Bureau. Basically, everybody's here around the table, all organization, and the objective of this association, I think there's UK Music could be a good comparison, is to work together on many different subjects, either to lobby with our own government, lobby at European level, at international level, basically to do better for music in general. And this year, in fact, one of the topics that we chose because it was imperative and urgent that we give more medium was export and international development. So we did a white paper. This white papers was gathered. There was about 20 propositions to basically give a boost to the our international development. And all those propositions were coming from about 30 to 40 interviews of professionals that we had done, and really we had two levels. One was working and seeing with the organization what the broad problems are, and also going directly to the issues that professionals like yourself could encounter. And basically we came up with those 20 proposals, and that actually helped. In fact, in June we did lobby with that, and Fabrice, maybe you want to say a few words about the result at national level.
Yes, it was a very, very nice operation, very, very useful, very efficient. It's not always that the whole musical industry is gathered together to shoot at the same aim, but this was the time, and every of the major directors of the industry, whatever it's from phonographic, whatever it's promoters, whatever it's they were editors, they shoot at the same aim, to ask to the government and the state more means for helping our export industry. And it worked very well, because in the end the Ministry of Culture was sort of forced to say, I'm going to help the Export Bureau and the export industries of the music, because it's needed, because it's efficient, and in the end it's a small investment for the state with a very big amount of return on investment, with the money coming back in France and defending, of course, the 240,000 employees, jobs in France. And it was very nice to see how it was organized, and we're very happy about this, because I didn't mention that when I explained how the Bureau Expo is organized. We are funded, and we were founded, and we are funded first by the private industry, phonographic, the three major families, so shows, phonographic and editors. And after a few years, the state helped with the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we have a very important partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because the 5 offices we have, as Olivier was saying, is in partnership with them, because you may know that France has a very large cultural diplomatic network. It's a very good asset for France. And as Olivier was mentioning, now they're more and more concerned by economic efficiency. And we have to make from that specificity an advantage. And that's what we're trying to do, working together more and more close, because one of the key way to be more efficient is, of course, with less money, to make every euro available more shining, more efficient. So we have to gather, as we say in French, we chasse en meute. We gather forces and we hunt like lions together. And it's very important. And the French are not so good at that, because they're so individual. You know, everybody goes in one way. It's always fighting, striking. But we really manage that. And this operation by TPLM, Tous pour la musique, Everybody for Music, that's the name of it, worked very well. It was a very good example.
To some good fox hunters. Yeah. So, I mean, basically, like with the evolution of the global music market, and as you were saying, there's a necessity to adapt and abate the fact that we do have some great tools to help and support. I mean, of course, so there were the propositions that the industry made globally, not just for the export bureau. But I mean, I'll ask each one of you, and however you want to answer this. I mean, as far as the bureau export is concerned, what are the sort of 3 key elements of strategy that you could envisage as far as the challenge of the next year is coming? What are the 3 key strategy points that you would want to work on?
We have prepared a strategic plan with interacting constantly with the professionals. And in this plan that was voted by the unanimity of the industry, maybe there's three points that are merging. First is the professionals really need to have a bigger network of countries we cover. As you remember, we have five offices in 5 countries, but we need to have other ways to be in the countries. We're not rich enough, France or even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we're not rich enough to have full exercise offices, but we want to have consultants in this country, and in a good cooperation with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is present in every country, we should be more efficient. And the first point is to be more presence in the countries, what we call the pays marché, the market countries. And our aim is to cover within 3 years about 20 countries of markets. The second thing is to have more money to distribute, of course. The people want to have more money because they help them. It boosts their operation. And what we're trying to do is to make sure that the different parts of the industry, as always the same family, phonographic editors and promoters for shows, they work more intelligently with a better coordination together. And we want to make sure that the money we give will be useful for the artists, for the 3 aspects of this industry, because it has to be more efficient for every euro.
And the third point in 1 minute, because we have very little time
is to be digital in all the way. It looks stupid, but now we have 58% of the revenues from international, which comes from digital. So that's the best way to grow. And we made a digitank with the best specialist of digital distribution in France, to be the most specialized in algorithm, in all what we call the shining points of something like the matrix, we would say. We really consider in that respect that it's matrix days, and we have to be the more efficient, and all the exporters should be as sharp as they can to be able to export with digitalization.
So unfortunately, we're running a little bit short of time. There were some of points that we wanted to share with you, such as basically a reflection on European programs, working more with countries in a bilateral way, a little bit as you mentioned before, but thinking as well of digital. We talked about that, and we had well, anyhow. I wanted to see with the room if you had questions. We're here to answer them, share with you. Don't be shy. Be nice. One here at the front. And when you ask your question, if you may say who you are and which environment you come from, possibly, that'd be great.
Good afternoon. Sherwin Bryce from St. Lucia in the Caribbean. I was actually at Mama France recently. I guess the question, I may have missed it, but the question that I had is, what would you say was the tipping point for France as it pertains to all of these associations and the help from not only the private sector but the government? When did that actually start, and how long did it take for it to become the success that I see it as?
Just to precise the question, that's on the
yeah. At what point did it start to change? Did you start seeing a development, a massive growth in the industry with the assistance from the Bureau of Export and the different institutes?
I mean, generally, I mean, unfortunately, we're all in the same industry, and the music industry sometimes look a little bit like something going smaller and smaller and smaller and more difficult. So it'd be a bit difficult to say that, cocorico, and I think in English it's cock-a-doodle-doo, I think, something like that. But certainly, Fabrice will answer that question.
It was created 22 years ago, and a few years after, I don't know exactly what, because I'm only here since a year and a half, but the government realized it was efficient to help this, because this is not only the economical size aspect of the music industry, it's also cultural, and it's cultural, and it vehicles the French values when we have them, when we're correctly organized, of sharing and respecting the other. So it's a good way of gathering policy and economics. And I think since the digitalization, the export grew more quickly. As I told you, in 2010, there was a 10% increase, which is huge at that time. I think in 2010, the general industry was decreasing of, I don't know the figure, but really. And so since then, we're, about between 5-6% maybe, but it looks like a steady, organized growth. And we convinced the politicians that it was brilliant when it was created, but year by year, the Bureau Export had less and less money, as everywhere or nearly in Europe, maybe not England, Germany though. And because we act all together, as we said, we convinced the government that it was a time to make a new effort and to give more money because it's efficient. And it's really the working together that helped us to do that.
Just to add up one thing, also there's one other point, it's the fact that there are more interesting markets now. For example, we've been working in China or Southeast Asia or some Latin American countries, which have become interesting markets that they may not be like 5 or 10 years ago. So things also have changed in various territories. So the way we promote the French musical scene also has to adapt to this evolution. So it's difficult to say whether it's successful on one time. It's really based also on the development of each territories. And we try to find the right solution for being relevant for each of them.
Thank you.
Any other question before we wrap up? Nope. Well, thank you very much. And don't hesitate to come and solicit us directly if you have some little questions after this panel. Enjoy BIME. Thank you.